a child, I was always really interested in being outdoors, in wildlife, in plants and animals, and it kind of made sense that I went on to do biology at university. And a few degrees later, I was working all over the world, and it just struck me that we want to be identifying the real world problems, and we want to be finding solutions, and that's really what pushed me into conservation.
So when I started my career direction, I was actually moving towards the veterinary medicine route. But during my studies, I decided I was a bit more interested in conservation and wildlife and the bigger picture that comes with protecting species. So I decided to undertake a master's degree in wild animal biology. I then went to work for an NGO in Indonesia, which was undertaking some research on Buton Island, looking at monitoring wildlife populations. I then went to work for Kyoto University in Japan for a while on a project that was studying wild macaques. And then COVID happened and I came back to the UK. And then since being in the UK, I've started working at Bristol Zoological Society, and I've been here for the past 2 years now.
I've wanted to work in conservation since I was a child, doing a keeper for the day experience with the tapirs. Having that experience opened my eyes to the work that can be done with the public to engage everyday people with an interest in our natural world.
I have always been really fascinated by the natural world. Even growing up, I was really drawn to species that don't always get the spotlight. So that interest led me to pursue my master's degree in applied wildlife and ecosystem conservation, where I've been able to combine my interests in animal behavior, welfare, and conservation science.
My current role at Bristol Zoological Society is leading the Tanzania conservation project, and that involves working in a team of conservationists, and it's about our conservationists, our students, trying to get them linking up and seeing what's going on in the rest of the world.
Part of my role here at Bristol Zoological Society is as a project manager, and that's working under our Tanzania conservation program. And most of my work is focused on the implementation of our Kimboza Forest Restoration Project. Kimboza Forest is a forest block that's home to the turquoise dwarf gecko, which is one of our flagship species we've been working with since 2015.
The turquoise dwarf gecko is a critically endangered species that resides in a very small area of eastern Tanzania, making it highly vulnerable to threats like habitat loss and illegal collection for the pet trade. This species is not only important because of its rarity, but it is also a flagship species. Its bright, striking coloration can draw attention from the public and potentially inspire support for wider habitat conservation. Protecting this species also means protecting many other species that share the same ecosystem.
Now, here at BZS, we've partnered with Sokoine University of Agriculture, and through this collaboration, we've been implementing measures to try and improve the quality of the habitat, but to also protect it. Now, to do this, we've taken a few different methods. Firstly, we have been removing invasive Spanish cedar trees, which is a tree species in Kimboza that is currently dominating the landscape and taking resources. We've been working to maintain a fire break around the outskirts of the forest reserve, which is designed to stop encroaching wildfires. And we've also been developing and expanding a seedling nursery where native seedlings are grown by local people and then transplanted into the forest reserve.
The reforestation process is actually quite interesting in itself because there's loads of different aspects to it. It's removing the invasive trees that have been planted there for sort of logging purposes many decades ago. It's replanting with native saplings, some of them quite rare and some of them quite threatened. And among those, trying to put in more of the trees that actually the turquoise dwarf gecko really appreciates, and it's kind of its sole habitat. But at the same time, we've all got to do this in the framework that the climate is changing a little bit, and there's probably more difficulties due to wildfires. So actually trying to install fire breaks and maintain fire breaks is going to be a big part of it as well.
Here in the UK, we've also been taking initiatives to try and help conserve the turquoise dwarf gecko, and this includes a European breeding program where we are keeping an insurance population of the species safe. And we've also been experimenting with implementing some exciting new measures for monitoring populations, including the use of environmental DNA.
My current role as a trainee keeper involves the daily husbandry of our animals and contributing towards ex situ breeding programs. My colleagues and I work with students on various research projects to help improve animal welfare and to inform our in situ conservation projects.
Currently, I am carrying out my dissertation project on turquoise dwarf geckos at the Bristol Zoo Gardens. My role involves designing and running behavioral studies monitoring gecko activity with cameras and analyzing the footage to see how different plant species within the gecko enclosures impact their behavior.
We are currently working on designing and building brand new facilities at Bristol Zoo projects for all of our endangered reptile and amphibian species. We have a new male turquoise dwarf gecko in our group who was confiscated from the illegal wildlife trade, and we're planning on introducing him to our female as part of the Ayaza Zoo breeding program.
By improving captive care, we can strengthen the role that ex situ populations play in conservation. Healthy, behaviorally normal geckos are more likely to thrive in breeding programs and potentially future reintroductions. My work will hopefully contribute to building evidence-based husbandry guidelines that can be applied not just at Bristol Zoo Project, but across other institutions managing this species.
And my aspirations for the future of conservation are that we get a bit more circumspect as a species, that humans can all start to understand the impacts of different areas of what we're doing, development and that sort of thing.
I hope that conservation continues to be a key facet in our society, and we can recognise the important role it has in all of our lives.
I hope that the future of conservation continues to become more collaborative, so bringing together fieldwork, local communities, and science-based management. I also really hope that the more underrepresented species, such as the turquoise dwarf gecko, gain more prominence in research and funding.
I hope the future of conservation would be a world where we put more focus onto prevention as opposed to fixing problems that have already occurred. I think given the right kind of toolkits and resources, mankind can, instead of waiting for a problem to happen and the point where damage has occurred that can't be reversed, instead implement more proactive measures to help safeguard threatened species and ensure the protection of vital ecosystems.